right. Welcome to the Morse Code Podcast, where we talk with entrepreneurially minded creatives in music, film, and writing. My name's Corby, and I'm hoping these conversations inspire you to push deeper into your own work, whether you're a full-time professional or just starting out on your own creative odyssey. Day 6 of fatherhood, and I don't know what to say. I've never slept so well in my life. It's actually been so fantastic as to make me wonder why we waited so long. I mean, there's this living, breathing person in the world who wasn't there before. Thank God she looks like Randa more than me. You know, we were just doing a little neighborhood walk last week, 2 days ago. And pushing her in the stroller, you know, and some neighbors came out and took a peep at her and, you know, said all the things you're supposed to say, how beautiful she was, etc. And my neighbor was like, yeah, it'll be really cool when, you know, her personality starts to come out. I was just like, she's like a personality in spades here, man. I mean, she really does. She like sleeps sideways. She's 60 days old and she's like rolling over onto her side. She like twists her body when she sleeps. All right. See, I'm already turned into one of those jackass people that can't stop talking about their children. Let's just move on. We started piano lessons and ear training begins next week. Suzu, what's a perfect fifth? Sing it back to me. Okay. Really, truly excited to share my next guest, singer-songwriter, artist, band leader, father, Langhorne Slim. A lot of you guys are already familiar with the man's rootsy blend of rough-hewn sincerity and the raucous, celebratory atmosphere that seems to follow him everywhere. But I'll include a short list of highlights from his stellar career to date. No less than Conan O'Brien, on whose show he's appeared 3 times, counts himself among Langhorne's obsessive fans. He's toured with a litany of musical heroes, the Avett Brothers, the Violent Femmes, Grace Potter and the Nocturnals, the Lumineers, just to name a few. He just dropped a new single, We the People, Fuck the Man, a timely reminder to distrust our political overlords, whoever they are, and focus on those things that make a society a place actually worth living in. You know, loving our neighbors, looking each other in the eye, being actually alive on planet Earth in this, our once and mysterious life. We cover a lot of territory in the following conversation, from his early years in Pennsylvania and into the city, and a few highlights from some of those records that came out in the second half of the aughts. But we talk a lot about the personal, dare I say, philosophical side of Langhorne and what inspires his music and evolution. I was also real happy he elected to play one live in the studio. A lot to listen to here in my conversation with Langhorne Slim. Langhorne Slim, welcome to the podcast. Thanks so much for making some time for us, man.
Excellent to be here across the table with you, my friend.
Yeah, dude. We've already touched on a number of subjects over just coffee in the kitchen a few minutes ago, so I'm really looking forward to whatever is about to happen. And maybe we could start with current events and go backwards. And the most current event, as far as I know, is the release of your latest single, We the People, the Man.
Yeah.
And it's a fantastic track. And
thanks, buddy.
I mean, a timeless message, and one that kind of harkens back to I feel like a more hopeful time. I feel like there's like Pete Seeger vibe to it lyrically.
I think you're right about that.
Yeah. Maybe I could just use that as a way to ask you what inspired that song, and was it like a long time coming, or have you been sitting on this one for a while?
Yeah, I hadn't been sitting on it for a long time, but I wrote it, I shared it with some people that are close to me, my partner, my manager, and they asked me to sit on it for a release around election time. Though for me, that both made sense and contradicted the message, in that it wasn't I wasn't trying to write like a Harris or Trump or a Democrat or Republican anthem. It's hard to know sometimes where the song comes from, I think, where a song comes from, but I don't know if it has something to do with my Jewish heritage or a little bit of a rebelliousness, distrust for authority and institutions and things like that. But I get very uncomfortable with the rah-rah for a man or a woman. And I believe in the beauty of a collective. And we have seen that through art and music. The most sort of, I wasn't raised in church. I was hardly raised in synagogue, but the religious experience that I get, or the spiritual experience, or the high vibe energy experience of playing a show or being at a show, and the elevation and the connectivity that happens when it happens, is something that is very powerful. And so, to me, can you say fuck?
Yes.
Or, okay. The Fuck the Man just kind of rolled out with the song as the song was happening. And then some people during the election were like, well, which man do you want to fuck? And I'm like, well, I guess fuck whatever, as long as it's consensual.
Whichever man.
But yeah, the message, I think, I'm rambling as I do.
I love it, man.
Is more of a, I would hope, a timeless message of love our neighbors, protect the land. These are lyrics in the song. Mm-hmm. Look each other in the eye when we shake each other's hand. If we're bringing it to modern times, I know Trump supporters and I know Harris supporters, and I don't love or hate either because of who they support in this. I am scared sometimes when people are sort of all in for a man or a woman in these positions of leadership, because I don't believe that they are our saviors. I feel fairly convinced of that.
I think we have some common ground here.
Yeah, and I did some rallies. I really like Bernie Sanders a lot, mm-hmm. and I was asked to sing at a couple of his rallies, which I did and was excited to do. And even for somebody that I was excited about, when I saw the flags waving and for one person, it just, there's something about it that maybe it's somebody's message that should hopefully, and maybe it does, but elevate those that dig the message, which can also be dangerous because there are some people with dangerous messages. So maybe I'm getting off track here.
Yeah, no, I mean, for one thing, what I got out of that was it's a song about the universality of the human cause, in the sense of let's treat each other as people. And also I can very strongly identify with the, I want to say, like, catharsis of a live show. There's whoever's in that room, whether you're a performer or in the audience, it's a we thing.
Right.
And that is very, not just intoxicating, but like validating in an immediate and eternal way. I don't know. I know that from having a few experiences like that were in my formative years, that were very powerful indicators to me of like how I wanted to spend my life, which was like more that. And but similarly, when you see it in service of a political personality, I have never, like you, really caught into that vibe, because I can't help but think of these people as duplicitous, because they're really serving their own ends, pretending to, like, masquerading their own self-service as a service to you. And it's not very, whatever. I'm not even really blaming the political class, because that's just the nature of the game, but I'm not going to sign up to your party.
Yeah. I think at times we could even take it out of politics. I watched this documentary last night about this yoga instructor.
That guy who abused the Bikram guy?
I've seen that.
You're like
the stories of yoga instructors
abusing their power.
Yeah, and of course,
story as old as time.
It's a story as old as time, because anybody we godify, I think, particularly people with penises, but even those with the vaginas, can't handle being godified. Mm-hmm. With too much money, too much power, we will turn into dirty people, I think. And this one is, I think a lot of the, and I love watching shows and reading about cults. I'm interested in all that. I happen to think a lot of these cults start with good intentions, and people really are getting something out of it, finding this connection in the ways that we find it in music. I'm in recovery. I find a lot of connection and hope in recovery rooms, right? But in there's nobody like leading it. So there's nobody really that. And in music, I guess there's somebody leading it who is up on stage, but with the kind of music I do, I can't really do my thing unless there is an equal ground where we're all kind of doing it together. So I just think we should be careful. And as we all have experienced, in the last 8 years, 10 years, I'm sure longer, but particularly these last years of like families breaking apart and people just like hating. There's just a lot of people that I think are hurting, and whether right or wrong, they feel like they've been done wrong. And I think that there's real symptoms of things that we could look at as people in our communities as to what the fuck is going on, instead of looking to these people as some
the
sort of
solutions
saviors
to our problems. Yeah. What was the documentary you were watching?
Man, it's on.
Was it the one that
Max.
happens in Oregon?
I've seen that one too, where she turns blue from all the colloidal silver.
Oh, whoa. I don't know.
That might be one. I mean, that is one. I don't know if that's in Oregon. This is the one that they brought. The guy brought. It's like a breathing. I can't remember the name of the kind of yoga it is. Maybe I'll think of it.
Yeah, no matter. The point is that
it's called Breathing Fire. Check it out.
And it went to his head, and he did some.
And then it went to her head.
Head.
She was his like a disciple, and I haven't finished it yet. It's one of these like 3-4 parters.
Fun,
but it isn't going to end well.
Yeah. It'll be a fun story, I imagine. No, I think that, what you were talking about, like the abuse of power from the godified, that's a great word. And is not a thing that happens or does not. I feel like it's a continuum that we're all on this little thing that we're having to negotiate. And, most people don't taste something that's like that smacks of that sort of success and being surrounded by an entourage of yes people and just being completely sequestered in your own echo chamber. Yeah. But we all have some kind of, I think everybody has some taste of a thing when they get some accolades, some affirmation, some small amount of fame, and you're like, oh, whoa, you see somebody that treats you a little bit differently or something. Yeah. And, it's easy in small circumstances. I've never known this personally, but to mitigate that with some humility. But if you're all of a sudden surrounded by it, it's easy to understand how it could happen to just about anybody. And, again, I don't hold these people like Oprah or whoever with any blame or malice, because it's got, how do you function as a normal human being if you're a billionaire and worldwide famous? It's just like nobody can really understand what it's like to be in that. Yeah. All right. Well, let's go back to the beginning in a way and just tell me about, not like but an experience that happened when you were younger that made you think, I have some knack for this, and it's something I want to spend my life chasing. Because that's a crazy set of circumstances. Yeah.
I think I was born this way.
Yeah. No, I get it.
And what I knew before I played music was I had a gift and a curse for some kind of I'm not trying to be arrogant. It's gotten me into a lot of trouble, but some sort of charm. So when I was in school, when I wanted to, I could kind of get my way. Mm-hmm. And what I did through school was a lot of cheating and charming. Mm-hmm.
You're a real raconteur.
Well, I don't know, but I was eventually asked to leave. The charm wore off, and I was asked to leave the school. But I knew, an early memory that I have was there was a girl crying, and I can't remember why she was crying. And I went up to her, and who knows if I made like a fart joke or something. I have no idea. It was very young. And she went from crying to laughing. And that was an intoxicating feeling for me, where I was like, whoa, that is wild. And so I was sort of, in good ways and bad ways, like I would use that sort of like humor or some sort of charm to kind of like, I mean, we could get like into therapy stuff here. I think
I think we should. This is where I want to go.
Looking back as like an old guy now, I think that there's a lot there. But at the time, I just knew like that was. I didn't like sitting still. I didn't like doing what I was told. I was really bad at all that. But there was that part that I felt some kind of something toward. That's the earliest kind of memory that I have. Then I was in the plays with all of the girls in school. And because I was like the only boy and I could sing and perform a little bit, I would get the roles.
Dude, just to insert myself into this so we have a point of contact, when I was in third grade, that was the first time that I had this experience where I've always loved girls, and the cute girls that didn't give two shits about me because I wasn't an athlete. I remember this girl that I kind of had a third grade version of a crush on asked the teacher if she could stand next to me during the Christmas song. And I was like, what is this about? And that is, whatever. I think that maybe I think I know where you're going, but continue. Anyway, it's very intoxicating.
It is intoxicating.
Perhaps misleading.
Perhaps. However, maybe my knack for humility and yours for just complete arrogance.
Yes.
Instead
You've seen right through me.
No. I'm kidding, of course. But as I got a little older, I started doing like community theater. And instead of the girl asking to maybe there was a girl that wanted to stand next to me, but of course I don't remember that. I remember I was a flying monkey and in the Lollipop Guild for The Wizard of Oz, right? And these kids were older, and I got into the play with the older kids at some church. And Dorothy was such a babe. I mean, I don't know if I was 10, 12, and she was 3 years older or something probably, and at that age, that's significant. But I had this belief, I guess always this belief in myself that nothing is, there are no leagues. People say this is out of your league or this. I believed somewhere in me, with all my insecurity that's in there as well, that Dorothy could be mine. And my mom, for some reason, had this chocolate rose that had been in the house for years. It was wrapped in plastic. And I remember putting it in the glove box and taking it out, like trying to be real sneaky, taking it out of the glove box when my mom or whoever dropped me off at rehearsal. I gave it to one of her friends, and it was now, instead of a rose, it was just a melted glob of chocolate in plastic on a plastic stem. And I was like, yo, will you give this to Dorothy for me? And they're like, that is so sweet. And I was like, do you think it matters that it melted into just like a blob? And they're like, no, it's the thought that counts. And so they did, and I'm just like sweating the whole time. And after rehearsal, they handed it back, and she said, she's into the Scarecrow. So, and that stuck with me all these years.
Man, that was the beginning of, that's a very important life lesson.
I'm not sure what it is, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, continuing on this interesting thread of seduction and love gained and lost, what did the music for you as you got a little older and started getting a little bit more momentum and more attention, however you want to feel this, like what do you think was underneath that,
right,
that motivated that?
I forgot the initial question. I always felt very tuned into music. And I had a strong emotional response to music, and wanted to be close to it. So like my mom had fixed up this guitar that was given to us. It was this like beat up broken guitar, and took me to what would have been, I guess, the equivalent of like our local guitar center at the time, which I can't remember what the name of it was. And I took a lesson, and no diss on Aerosmith, but they were like teaching me Aerosmith licks, and you know, I couldn't learn it. It felt like math, and I wasn't very good at math, and so I was like, fuck, okay, guitar isn't it? And I kept like picking up these little, as a kid does, I suppose, like going to this and to that and not sticking with it. And then my cousin in New Jersey, my cousin David, was in a punk band, really good. And I used to go down the shore, as we call it, and I would sit in the basement with him and watch, you know, him and his band play, and I was mesmerized by it. And so he taught me a few chords. He taught me Polly by Nirvana, and that was that. I started to just deconstruct I learned that, sat there over and over, and it became really fun, you know, instead of it feeling laborious or like too hard.
Or obedient in a way.
Yeah.
Like, to me, like the guy at the guitar store teaching you the Aerosmith lick, it's like,
it just felt too
not
hard.
yours.
And it didn't, exactly. I didn't connect to it. Even though I did like, you know, Lovin' in an Elevator and stuff like that at the time. But so, yeah, he taught me that. I just have memories of hearing, like, for instance, sitting on the dock of the bay, Otis Redding coming on and just being like, that's the best voice I've ever heard. And then being really curious as to what else Otis Redding did and invested. So that early memories were I guess of like classic rock radio in Philly and Pennsylvania and New Jersey. My parents were split. My dad would pick us up on Sundays. He would always listen to classic rock. My grandparents loved show tunes and swing jazz. My mom loved Streisand and that kind of stuff. So I was getting a lot of different flavors. And then I had two older cousins who were into, you know, punk rock, and also Dylan and Leonard Cohen and Randy Newman. I think when I was 13 or 14, I used to go and visit my cousin Noah in New York, and I had written a few songs. I had like the song, first one was called Lesbian Friend, which I don't know if I knew if I even had a lesbian friend at the time. I had a few songs. And
it's a great pairing of words, though. You know,
yeah, it's nice. It's nice. And so he would take me to like Washington Square Park or the subway and just, you know, let me be there. And he would kind of wander off, but keeping an eye on me and let me do my thing. And that was very empowering and very like I really looked up to both, and still do, both of these cousins of mine. And they both believed in me and wanted to show me things. Noah, my cousin in New York, showed me all the Jarmusch films and took me to art museums and to shows that I probably shouldn't have been allowed in, or I don't know, but just it exposed me to all this kind of magic where I'm from, where I get my name, Langhorne, Pennsylvania. And I felt like many of us artsy kids felt growing up, at least. I know you're from a little town, but this was a little suburban town, and I felt really out of place there. And so getting a taste of these, like where there were other freaks and other just, it wasn't just like the jocks and the dorks or something. It was all this stuff, and things really felt like, okay, well, if I can just kind of get out of school and get out of this town,
you could be yourself.
Search for what that means, or just that that there's a place for me. You know. So yeah, there's lots of, I think, memories and examples of just hearing music and just being like totally taken over by it, and knowing, like, I remember even before I wrote any music or did any kind of theater or anything like that as a kid, I felt very strongly, and it almost hurt, that I wanted to make something and create something, but didn't know what that meant, or hadn't found the connection yet. And I think it's maybe part of why I was at times aggressive and even violent as a kid, and just like really felt like I was going to explode, because I didn't have like a means yet to
There's a lot of pressure in the hose. You didn't know where to point the hose yet.
Yeah. I think every creative person needs to find that connection to, I would consider it the divine. I don't know, but where you there's something there, and you have to put the pencil to the paper or the hand to the guitar,
you have to try
whatever the fuck it is.
Yeah. I one of my favorite things is to be around young kids that are on the art side of life, because that you can just feel it so strongly. That thing of like wanting to do something. Yeah. And that time is so precious. You never get it again. As when you're young and you have that opportunity.
More now that I'm older, those are the people I want to be around. I just had an experience where I played at this thing called Jams for Jill. I don't know if you remember. So just for people that are watching, there was a young woman, a college student at Belmont, who was hit by a stray bullet while she was jogging in the park a year ago and killed tragically. And so her roommate and her friends put on this show at the Exit Inn, and for all kinds of reasons, it was powerful, of course, but I don't know how old these kids are. They're like freshman, sophomore in college, and their performances were all just like on fire. The photographs that I've seen of the night are just spectacular.
Electric, yeah.
Like that time is really special, I think, when you're like coming into it, like you just said, and and yeah, I got that energy the other night, which was awesome.
I love that. I try to catch some shows in the East Room because they get a little punk rocky now and then, and they're often of the youth, and I'll be the old guy in there. But there was a band in there like 2 Fridays ago called Hotel Fiction. They're from Athens, Georgia, and they got some heat. It's like two girls are the front ladies of the band, and then a great young band behind them, and they were just like coming off of like their first national tour, say like 20 shows under their belts. I mean, just an amazing time to see a band like that with so much energy and plenty enough rehearsal now that there's a confidence. Yeah. And it was off the charts. It was just so exciting, and I say this as somebody who loves music, loves talent, can't not be around it. But living in a town where there's a ton of it, there's still something that can be a little ponderous. It can be a little...
Well, we live in a town that has so much talent, and it's beautiful. I wish that I had half the technical ability that most people here do. I've always been most drawn to the raw, like all of the music that I really love. The people are incredibly talented, but there's something like unique and very, I say primitive as a compliment, but there's just something that's, that there's just really raw and real about it. And I think when you're first coming up, there's like a sweet spot there that is not too polished or practiced yet.
Yeah, I mean, it's like every chord you learn kind of sucks a little bit more mystery out of the whole thing. Like when you were just super young, like learning poly, it was just like you're just stepping through fog. Yeah. You're just like learning how it's all magic then. Yes. And then to understand the relationships between the things even a little bit makes it more powerful. You can like, this is how one G to C sounds.
Sure. And to expand on what you're saying, as a songwriter or performer, you definitely learn your tricks. You see something that kind of works or feels good. And I think a lot of us go back to that. Now, I'm sure I'm still doing that in ways, but I'm trying to get, like, I feel like we were talking about being 40-something-year-old dudes, and I feel like now I'm trying, one must, I think, work to build an identity for themselves to be out in the world or believe in something. I don't know how to articulate it exactly. And then I think there comes a time, at least for me, where it's like peeling the layers off of that identity, deconstructing it, and trying to get back to that rawness and the childlike wonder, and I think that that's possible as an older person.
I'm hopeful as an older person. We must be,
yeah.
What else is there? I want to talk for just a second about one of the songs that I think in your catalog, it was kind of a breakthrough moment for you, Electric Love Letter. And because I feel like that song sort of is emblematic of a lot of what you're talking about in the sense of there's this kind of raw energy underneath it. It's not, I don't know, maybe there was a click track or not, but it's not like a slave to the groove.
I've never successfully used a click track. I think I could do it now if you and I were to set it up, but many have tried and none have succeeded.
Well, that makes sense because I mean, like, this is so great because one of my many complaints about, I'm starting to be like turning into get off my lawn old man style rants, but there's just something about the digitization of music and the egalitarian nature that is, everyone can kind of do it, but it really takes, the other side of that coin is it sucks the meaning out of the people who really can do it. Like, I think of drummers. I just am such a fan of great drumming. It's one of the reasons I go to live shows, and I have no talent for drumming. So that's part of the reason. I'm not trying to like learn tricks. I'm just enjoying it. Yeah. And to me, that like it reached its zenith in the 80s, like with the gated snares, and like there's click tracks, but there's absolutely no Pro Tools or anything. Right. It's just hard grooves, like Eagles records and stuff. And there's just something really wonderful about that. And I can't really remember where I was going, but it was, where am I going, Langhorne?
Well, it's a little presumptuous of me, but I think you were saying that you enjoy a rawness and kind of a band being in sync with each other.
Thank you.
It isn't necessarily.
That's
like
not perfect. That's what I'm saying. Is this like this striving for perfect, whatever that means, and the accessibility of the perfect?
Right.
Is it's not human, and it makes people starving for something that really is.
Yeah.
And so
I will say that I've fallen into the trap in my life of trying to achieve perfect, but those sounds didn't connect with me as much. So I was trying to achieve perfect performances.
Your version of perfect, it has different parameters, but it still is a version of perfect.
Yeah, it's kind of the same disease.
Different symptoms.
Right. With Electric Love Letter to the Present, like that was a very early song for me. And
well, just really quickly, I just want to say, love that record. And who's playing bass on that album? On that
Paul
song?
DeFiglia, who you might know, he lives in Nashville.
Mm-hmm. And was that recorded live in a room?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you can really feel that.
Yeah.
It's so fun to listen to that song because it feels like a family picnic after the kids have gone to bed. There's something so gathering about it.
Well, I'd love to hear that because I haven't heard that in a long time.
It came up this morning again as I was kind of reviewing.
Yeah,
I
that's
love
awesome.
This track. Anyway, I interrupted you. Yeah.
No. I'm just trying to, basically, because there is like a little segue of a click to my inability, blah, 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 blah. Fast forward. When I was making my first EP and my first record, a friend of mine who was dating a friend of mine in school, she introduced me to her boyfriend at the time. He went on to play with that band Grizzly Bear, but before he did that, he was like producing some stuff in Brooklyn. And so he's like, I'm going to get my friend Malachi, who is going to help me do this, with you. And Mal was the first drummer that I ever played with that didn't just be like, you got to fucking play in time, man.
Yeah.
Or I just, he was, somehow we were synced up where he could follow what I was doing and therefore I could gel with him. If I hadn't had too much alcohol or other things. And he's still my dear friend and drummer to this day. Mm-hmm. So we've had that thing for almost 20 years, something like that. But yes, going back to the music that I was always, I love punk rock and I love early folk and blues and country and soul and R&B and hip hop and hard rock. So I love just like that stuff to me always seemed wild and free and exciting. Mm-hmm. And so that's really, though maybe it sounds like an oxymoron to say, like trying to perfect that, but that's the kind of music I was trying to make, was like, I don't know, in the beginning, like punk rock, bluegrass, pop music.
I mean, that's exactly what you hear in the,
then we
especially the
succeeded.
early recordings. Yeah, mission accomplished. Maybe we can touch on, and if you're not comfortable with this, that's totally fine too. But in terms of like life changes, song changes, a lot of people love that song, me one of them. And maybe that ushers an opportunity to talk about that time in your life when you felt like some of that stuff did need to change. And my question to you, maybe to get it started, is, I mean, did you have a, like, the poet's version of rock bottom, or was it just more of a feeling like, you know what, maybe I don't need this in my life anymore? Or
As in music?
No, sobering up.
I got you. So I've had two experiences with sobering up. You were asking me about the song Changes?
That was, yes.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to
No,
say
that works.
to that.
That works. Because that was the first time around. And so part of that song, I've had this a few times, and I've heard a lot of songwriters and writers have this experience, but that was partially a dream that I had, and then I woke up, because so many times I'll hear something in a dream and be like, yo, that's dope. And I'll wake up in the middle of the night and I'll be like, yeah, and that doesn't sound like something that I would normally do. I'll remember that in the morning. And of course, we all know you don't remember it in the morning, so always get your lazy ass up, record a voice memo or write it down. But anyway, with that song I did, and so I had like the outline or some of the idea, and then the rest of it just came along. But that was, I have had addiction issues for many, many years. And this was 11 years ago. I was in Kai's house where I moved when I first moved to town. I continued drinking and doing my stuff for a year or so when I moved to Nashville. And then, yeah, dude, shit just hit the fan with me, like, where I just felt spiritually broken, emotionally devoid, like just a dead man walking. And so I quit, and I at that time I quit just on my own. I kind of did one of these lock yourself in your room, and I've learned since that that's not a very healthy way to do it. But I did it, and it was a fucking crazy experience. And then I stayed clean for a few years, but I hadn't like reached out to, I was able to stay that way for a little bit, but I wasn't doing any kind of like therapy or recovery stuff. And so I did get write some sort of, I was shown that the fear that I and a lot of people I think have, where you're like, am I going to be able to write music? Am I going to be able to, feel comfortable and social, so whatever somebody's fear might be, without booze or their preferred, drug or whatever.
Sure.
I was like, I feel kind of more comfortable in public at that time, and my shows are better, more consistent, and I'm writing songs that I really like, Changes being one of them. Then some years later, that record I had really high expectations of, and I think I hadn't quite learned, and we were talking about this sort of but when we were making coffee in the kitchen, that what I needed is not out there, but within. And that continues to be difficult at times, because it's easy to always want something else or something more. And at that time, that record came out, the label, the manager, myself, my band had really high expectations, and it didn't quite reach those expectations. And there was a lady who I fancied, and I couldn't get her to ask the teacher to want to stand next to me. The chocolate rose wasn't doing the damn trick. And so all of these things where I was like, if I only had I feel still a little embarrassed about it, but it's like, if I only could fill this theater on this tour, if I only had that woman by my side, then I would be the man that I know I can be. Mm-hmm. And I was a wreck when I couldn't get all that to fall into place. And so I wound up starting to fuck around with some drugs and stuff again, and wound up getting hooked on this prescription stuff. And it was a bad scene for a while. Then came back to Nashville prior to the tornado and pandemic and got sober again. So I'll have 5 years sober, December 11th,
wow,
if I stay the course. So yeah, there's been 2, for me, big chapters of completely getting myself to a point where I've felt dead inside, to trying to get my shit back together.
Yeah. I have a question for you on that note, from my own perspective, and this is like me seeking advice, perhaps. I don't know exactly, but it has something to do with what changes in what motivates you to be a creative person across time as you maybe do heal. And we're all on our own path of healing. I feel like I'm a wee babe starting out his journey.
Me too.
But a lot of what led me to want to express myself through music was the early validation I got from it, particularly from girls. And, I had stuff in my childhood that's kind of set me up for that need. And then music became a way to achieve that again and again and again. And I really I also in some ways achieved it without consequence, in the sense that I just could have that oh, the pretty girl likes me. And then I could move on and find another pretty girl. This is embarrassing to me. It's my turn to be embarrassed now. And caused a lot of problems for myself and others. And then as I've, found I have some semblance of peace in myself and a person that I deeply care about who's willing to put up with my shit, and now starting out a new family, I'm in just a completely different place. And it's I'm still kind of sorting out what does creativity look like for me? And a short answer to that question for myself is well, I do need to express myself. I do it every day, through words in some ways, but the genre is kind of shifting, where I loved being on the road and was 100 days a year for certain times in my life. And I have no desire to be on the road anymore. And the music thing just feels like it's so fast, and now it's so social media based, and I'm just overwhelmed with all of it. But I still have a need to make music in my heart, and I do, but it's I just post little stories now. I have no relationship to the music business for the moment, and now it's all in the book world. But my question is how has it changed for you as you've healed, and are you still reaching up and with the melted rose, or what's driving that?
I think that some of that is conditioned in childhood and daddy and all this kind of stuff. And we could do another hour sometime about that stuff, because I think that's all valid and interesting. But I don't know. I think there's something in me that will always be reaching with the melted rose. And I think I can make friends with that in a way and not have it be as detrimental.
Yeah, it's just the destructive tidal wave.
You just said a lot of beautiful stuff, so I'll try to pick at some of that and respond. For me, at an early age, it had nothing to do with the pretty girl or any of that stuff. I needed so much some kind of release, and then the couple of chords that I learned gave me some release and let me get into another universe through the guitar and just yelling into I used to go in my mom's bathroom, and more embarrassing, and look at myself in the mirror. People that know me won't be too surprised, and just make up this shit. I did a lot of stuff opposite or backward as far as that, because later in life I definitely misused the music and the whatever that came along with it, I think, for certain relationships. And you can maybe some people, there's a few people that don't burn out, but you could drink and be a kind of a womanizer or a manizer or whateverizer and get fucked up and you can get away with it for a long time because the lifestyle is such where one can. So I don't know. I've just got, I don't know that I got like morally burnt out on it. I just felt for myself that part of the beast of addiction is that I was doing something for what I thought were pure reasons. That I've got anxiety, I've got depression at times. If I have this little tool, this isn't going to kill me. This isn't going to hurt my friends or my partner too much, right? But if I just have this, it'll allow me to settle down, to get out of my head, and to just lubricate my heart and soul so that I can be a better version of myself. And that might work for a little bit. At least it does I think it works for a little bit for myself until it doesn't work. And then I feel like I need more of the thing that's hurting me so I can get back into the place where I feel like it's helping me. Does that make any sense?
Well, it's classic addiction stuff.
Yes. And when I'm in it, it's bizarre because you don't realize that it's classic addiction stuff. And it's just like, no, I need a bag. I need a drink. I need this fucking person to be okay. Mm-hmm. And of course, that's it's a low place to be and a dangerous place to be.
It's just interesting because I feel like if I just were to reduce the whatever the tension is inside me, it's like I want to make art because I have my version of standing in front of the mirror as a little kid that didn't have anything to do with girls or anything too. It's just like the sheer joy of learning a lick on guitar or coming up with just like a zinger of a rhyme that just says like that thing that just like nobody else quite does. All of those things are wonderful. And it's interesting because like I struggle sometimes with being in my enlightened state. It's just like, where's the drama anymore? I'm all at peace with myself. I say this facetiously. I'm not at all at peace with myself. Ask anyone. But I part of the reason why I'm not is because I somewhat enjoy, or there's something there. I don't want to quite look too closely at what motivates me to make something because I don't want to stop making something. And that's my hang up that's kind of where I live right now.
Well, I feel you. And also, I think a lot of us buy into, because a lot of our musical or literary or artistic heroes lived certain kinds of debaucherous lifestyles. Number one, that we subconsciously or consciously that we must or can or should live these kinds of lives in order to produce great work. I don't believe that we do. And at the same time, when I've just been feeling pretty good, not real high or real low, those have also been spaces where I'm not necessarily writing that much. So I have definitely in my life, and I still have the tendency to, I have it in my mind and I talk to my therapist about it and share about it in recovery rooms. If I blow this shit up, if I create some sort of high tension or dramatic situation, then I'll be in a zone where I can really create. And I'm not thinking it I'm not thinking it
not in so many words.
Yeah. But there's this tendency or a resistance to, you shared with me you're expecting a child. As I shared with you, I've got a 15-month-old son. I've been with my partner for 3 years. I've got an 8-year-old stepdaughter. My world has exploded into this beautiful thing, period, new sentence. It's so fucking different than what it was the decade and beyond. But I couldn't really hold a relationship for 10 years. My responsibility was to feed my cat and to hopefully play good shows and write songs. And I think because there's so much momentum from a life that you're living in a way and reaching in the ways that you're reaching, that once you get to a place where you know that's not serving you and you want to explore an adventure, for me, of like, there's an adventure of stillness now that is very exciting and at times scary, because for me before, anytime I would feel a little edgy, I'd be like, I'm going to drive to New Orleans today, or I'm going to fucking whatever. And I could do that. And now it's like, stay, sit. Never been a great sitter. And explore that. Losing my train of thought. But what I will say is that I had fear of being a sober person and being creative. And though I don't know why, I hate to say, I think a lot of people do, a fear of like, well, what's going to be when I have this family? I'm not going to just be able to play and write and tour and all that. And I truly feel way more in tune with my creativity now than I think I have in my life. Mm-hmm. Of course, it'll be up to the listener to determine if what I'm producing is shit.
Listener be damned.
Yeah. Maybe it's just like
second-tier concerns.
Yeah. This fucking sober guy with kids. Boo.
I might share one small thing too that was like a tectonic shift for me personally in the sense of like what made it possible to have a stable relationship. And that was very simple, which was that prior to my wife, I would never have said this out loud, but the art and consequently myself was the number one priority. Mm-hmm. No matter what relationship I was in, it was all conditional on that. Same. And I was willing to deal with the consequences of that. Same. So consequently, like, who would want to be with somebody like that? And it was actually the other side of that was like really difficult when we decided, whatever happened in the universe that made me go like, I'm going to step into this and I'm going to do it all the way. And what does that look like? And it's like, what that looks like is your wife is a higher priority than your art now. And when I like kind of looked that full in the face, it was like scared me to my soul. And it was like, are you willing to accept these terms? That, I don't know. Nobody told me this. It was just something that like, I was like, yeah, those are the stakes. That is the situation. And when I kind of crossed that chasm and stepped on the other side, and I'm like, you know what? It's now everything is conditional on our family and her happiness. And there's no decision I will make that she's not involved in. Yes. And
that I can relate to entirely. I don't make decisions. Sorry if I'm...
Yeah, no, that's it. That's plenty for me.
Yeah, Alyssa, my partner, is definitely, I go to her. I'm not taking dates on the road or going into the studio without her knowing and giving me the thumbs up. Mm-hmm. Thankfully, she gives me the thumbs up. Or if it's a time that, she's got a project, I don't feel like I've had to be faced with what is the priority in the sense, because I feel like it is all for for my little family, it's all a priority that that I defer to her for the approval of the logistics. Mm-hmm. Does that make any damn sense?
Yeah.
But like, I probably annoy her when she's like, Sean, we're leaving or whatever. And I'm like, I'm making a voice memo back here. Like, she's cool with that. Mm-hmm. And thank goodness, because if I was with somebody, I'm sure there's times where she's like, okay, like the baby just...
She puts up with the Sean-ness of Sean.
Though. Yes. She does. And I hope I put up with... Yes, I feel as though we work together in that way, where she knows I got to be a little weird Shawnee boy.
Yeah.
And she's got to be herself. She's a creative person in what she does as well. And so thankfully, I don't feel like it's... Well, let's talk in 6 months. Let's hope that it's... Sure. I'm sure these things go up and down.
Alive.
But it at the moment, with you're talking to a man that's got a young family, still pretty new at it, it all has kind of fed itself. And I've heard other people say it, so not to drop cliches, but I feel more focused with my time because left to my own devices, because I, like you, I was on the road a ton for years and years. So when I was home, that was like the danger zone because I didn't really have other hobbies other than drinking and searching for this or that. And so now all that energy that I put into seeking is focused, thankfully, because I'm not seeking a lady or a drug or booze or something. And then the time that I have to write or to go and record, it feels more intentional.
Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense. You brought your guitar. I wonder if you wouldn't mind sharing a song.
I wouldn't mind. I thought you'd never ask.
What do you want to set this one up?
I don't know what I'm going to play. Is there anything I could play? 1, 2, whatever.
Oh, yeah, just play one. I found that's easy on the admin side of it.
I just got to tune it up, but I'm
play
happy
the best one. Yeah, let's. We can do that in a second, but we'll attend to those technicalities in a moment. But if you know what you're going to play.
I mean, I can play the "Fuck the Man" tune.
I love that
as my newest
one. A live version of that.
Yeah.
All right, let's hear it.
All right, cool. We can weigh all our ambition on a dead man's sleeve, and for all the tea in China, would we trade our greed? Oh, would we trade our greed? I've seen the way to happiness, I've seen the way to pain. We've watched our parents lose the race, and we're losing it again. We're losing it again. So let us love our neighbors, protect the land, look our brother in the eye when we shake his hand. It's been this way a long time, it's hard to understand. The time has come for everyone, we the people, fuck the man. Yeah! Oh yes, it's been this way a long time. Conquer and divide, and go to sleep with ease at night, with God on our side, with God on our side. Now we've even lost connection to the air we breathe. Anxiety and depression are in the blood we bleed, in the blood we bleed. So let us love our neighbors, protect the land, look our sister in the eye when we shake her hand. It's been this way a long time, it's written in their plan. The time has come for everyone, we the people, fuck the man. Hey! Let us not follow the leader. The leader's compromised, and big politics our theater. Built to break our spine, built to break our spine. We the people have the power, power to us all. If we finally get together, we can rise before we fall, rise before we fall. So let us love our neighbors, protect the land, look each other in the eye when we shake each other's hand. It's been this way a long time, so read every book they ban. The time has come for everyone, we the people, fuck the man. The time has come for everyone, we the people, fuck the man.
Oh man, that's fucking fantastic. Thank you.
Oh, absolutely.
And I feel like this is a really great Sean to talk to. The one that's the young family Sean, and like in the clutches of healing. And I mean, I love to live here. I think that's one of the best things about getting a little bit longer in the teeth, is the richness that comes with that. Like it's, when I was a little kid, my parents, it was just like baked into me that you respect your elders.
Yeah,
you just
me too.
respect people just because of by virtue of they've lived longer. And I didn't really, I just took it at face value, and I didn't really understand what was behind that. But now being a little bit longer in the game, I realized it's fucking hard to live. It's hard to live. It's hard to keep it all together. It's hard to have relationships. It's hard to have personal meaning. It's hard to grow. The obligation to grow never ends. That's so annoying. Nobody ever tells you that.
It is.
We gotta keep showing up.
Well, that's part of why I started getting fucked up again, was I thought the first time I got sober, I was
You're
like,
good.
this is the beast that I need to slay, and then I'm going to be good. And that is true. That sounds ridiculous, but I really felt that there was truth in that. And then I realized, or it was explained to me, that if you choose to, you can work on yourself every single day. And that sounded very daunting and annoying to me.
Yeah.
And it does still sound daunting and annoying, but also I have more days where it sounds exciting and like, this is great because none of these people know what the fuck is going on. Mm-hmm. And there's a way of making the best of that for oneself, I think.
What's next? What are you looking forward to career-wise
I'm finishing a
person-wise?
record right now, and I'm excited to get the mixes back.
Anything you can share about that? Who produced it or personnel?
So I did something quite different. I made, I think, potentially enough for 2 records in about 3 weeks. But one of the records... So one of those records is with the band that I've had for a long time, and then one of the records is with a couple of the guys from the band Greta Van Fleet, who I became friends with and offered to work and write and stuff with me. So that's the first record that we're finishing, and I'm psyched for it.
Awesome. Does it have a release date? Or
No.
That's good to know. I always am curious in this changing climate we find ourselves in. Artists who are still in I release an album kind of mentality. And is there any consideration of shifting away from that, or what do you feel is the virtue of the album release versus
just doing
singles?
Because I'm old.
Well, you get a theme with an album. I'm an album guy.
I like the releasing of singles. I too have had, I've always had ADHD or something like that. So my attention span is a bit shortened. But I wrote I wrote a collection of songs in a short period of time, made this record, and so it'll be a record. I think I did it with the We the People Fuck the Man song. I released that as a single. So that part of it doesn't bother me. The part of the new wave that I think is detrimental is, and it's hard no matter what age one is at the moment and however long you've done it, to not kind of fall into it if you're on the phone much, which is this compulsion or feeling that one needs to have constant content to remain visible or relevant or seen. And in my mind, I still like to hearken back to the idea of like going the fuck away, like Walden Pond or something like that. You go down to the cabin or go into the woods or something like that and come back when you've got something to sing or say. So I don't know. I'm probably battling that as much as anybody else is at the time.
Yeah. It's a pervasive affliction of our times.
Yeah, for sure. And the reality and now like the yearning of I think a lot of folks who are like, maybe it's just the landscape of it. It's like, if I have a cover of this song, or if I, put this song on TikTok or whatever, then I can go on a sold out tour. Like that shit is crazy. Mm-hmm. And guess what? If I put a song on TikTok and it blew up and I went out on a sold out tour, I would feel great about that model. Yeah, I'm sure I would, if I'm being honest. But I don't want to live to feel like I need the constant content. That's I do believe that there are people now that make an art form out of that and have fun with it. But I think for a lot of us, it's a soul.
Yeah, necessary evil.
Yeah.
Or
an unnecessary one. I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting. We don't really know. And also, there's something that's attractive to me about the unknown of stepping away. Like, that seems to be the courageous thing to do.
Yes.
And I'm not doing it right now. I'm fucking posting content constantly.
Yeah, but you and I are both in a... I don't think you're doing it just to do it, and no, I hope I'm not doing it just to do it. There's a creative need, and we're doing something in the world that we're living in. I think that for me, there are times where the creativity isn't flowing, and those are the times where I feel the most scared, and that's when it feels the most gross, because I'm like, then I feel like cravey and like, maybe I should post this or that. When I'm in some kind of creative thing, I don't mind posting stuff that feels genuine. I think it's lovely to have an audience from my living room.
That's a good insight. I get that a lot. It's if it is a replacement for the feeling of failure, your creative feeling of failure, that is a bad combination.
Well, you can feel it. I mean, I think we've all felt, maybe I'm just thinking everybody's like me. I'm a very sensitive boy. I can feel when I'm reaching for that phone, and it feels like when I was reaching for a drug or drink or it's like, it doesn't feel right. It feels off.
Totally. I mean,
and then I'm looking at it. Did you like it? Did you like it?
One of the things I like about...
Why didn't you like it?
Totally.
If you would have told me I'd be a 44-year-old dude looking at this little fucking computer, wondering why other grown people didn't like something or being happy that they did, I would have said you got the wrong motherfucker.
Yeah,
but I have found myself there.
It's a pale existence. I was going to say the one thing that I like, one of the many things I like about having a life partner is that, it's just nice to have somebody who has your best interests in mind, kind of like check in, like when you're a little out of line. And that for me is like, if I'm on the phone too much big time. And she's like, dude, seriously, just no, it's too much right now. I'm like, you're absolutely right. I'm kind of
They're
annoyed.
never wrong when they tell us. And my lady does, she supports me so much and believes in me. And that's such a gift to have in a partner. And is also like, it's a little much at times. And I'm thankful for that.
Yeah, that's the way, it should be a little much at times. Otherwise,
absolutely.
It'd be too much in your court, I think.
Yeah. No doubt.
Sean, Langhorne Slim, thank you so much, man, for talking to me for a little bit. This has been really great. Thanks for the song, and I wish you nothing but the best in the future. I'll see you around the clubs.
Back to you and to all of you.
Cheers.
The Morse Code podcast is produced by Corby Linker and Jared Hammond in East Nashville, Tennessee. Our executive producer is Randa Newman. You can find full videos for this and all previous episodes at morsecodepodcast.com.